it's this connection, like connecting to your body via the breath, which brings me into that place of feeling more calm and having more sort of mental clarity. And I think, it's switching yourself off, even if it's just for 10 minutes in restorative pose from the outside world. You're not looking at your phone, you're not looking on Instagram, you're not looking on social media, you're not like paying your bills. It's this time that you hopefully cultivate just for you. And I think even that in itself, that practice has huge benefits.
So, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unpacking Possibility. I'm your host, Tracy Stein. As always, I'm so happy to be here with you. And welcome. It's 2024. I can't believe it. Where did the time go? Um, if you're like me, you're probably thinking about ways you could further improve your health, live better, do better, feel better in general. And so our topic today, yoga, and our incredible guests, Kelly Kern and Joanne Silver, are going to be ones you completely adore. So without further ado, welcome, Joanne and Kelly. So nice to see you.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Often
Happy to
I,
be here as well.
yay. Often I do a more formal introduction, but I want each of you to kind of tell a little bit about not only what you do now, but your journey. And then as we go on later in the podcast, we'll talk about this really incredible event that you have coming up. But neither one of you started out teaching yoga. And I don't even know if you always did yoga. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first. um, I did not always do yoga. I was always very active growing up. I did a lot of sports, horse riding. I ran on the track team, but I was always not very flexible. And I didn't ever really think about that because it didn't really impact my life in any way. Um, but in my early 20s, mid 20s, I started to get really bad sciatica, like debilitating sciatica. Um, Probably almost a year. Like I couldn't really walk properly. I couldn't really exercise. And I remember my chiropractor telling me that she thought I would never be able to exercise again. She's like, that's it. Like you're 24, 25, and like you'll never be able to exercise again. I was like, that doesn't really seem right. Um, so someone else is like, well, maybe you should go, try a different chiropractor. I went to a different chiropractor, and she was teaching me some basic stretches, which now I know were yoga stretches. I was doing a bit of cat and cow, just some basic kind of yoga stretching. And so I felt slightly better. My sciatica went away eventually. I don't think it was from those particular stretches, but my curiosity was piqued into this whole stretching thing. And then when I moved to New York, I took a yoga class a series of yoga classes at the New York Open Center. And it wasn't even the physical, it was more the connection to the breath and the connection to my body that got me sort of hooked into yoga. And then another yoga studio opened, and I started practicing more vinyasa yoga, which drastically changed my flexibility. I mean, I really had no idea how inflexible I was. Like I was nowhere near touching my toes. I thought that was like, it is totally fine, but I didn't realize how inflexible I was. And I would say over the course of maybe 6 months, my flexibility changed a lot. My back pain diminished. And as well as like the physical effects, it was more as well as the, I say mental clarity, more connection to my body. So that's how I sort of started on that. And then it wasn't even that long after that I did my yoga teacher training. I would say from the time I started practicing was probably only about 2 or 3 years until I did a teacher training. And I wasn't actually even intending to teach. It was more that I just wanted to, just kind of develop my own practice. And at the end of the training, the woman who I did the training with, like, okay, I'm going to put you on the schedule, and you're going to start teaching a beginner's class. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but that's how it started. And yeah, I've been teaching and practicing ever since.
That's so great. And your job before then, just, disclosure, we've known each other for quite a long time, was not remotely related to yoga,
No, not at
fitness,
all. I
anything.
worked, no, no, I was working in international education, um, initially arranging internships for people like study abroad programs, and then I was working with au pairs, not as an au pair, but placing au pairs. So it was more of that type of background. Yeah, so not remotely to do with yoga. I'd always been interested in the more spiritual practices, and I'd always been sort of curious about that, but I didn't think I'd end up working particularly in that field. But it's worked out well, so I'm glad I did.
Absolutely. And I always like to ask people, was there an aha moment? Like one moment when you're like, all right, I know this other job pays me a salary and benefits and all this, um, but it feels like I have to do yoga.
It wasn't so
I have to
much of
teach.
an aha moment. It was more just sort of this organic unfolding, I guess, because it wasn't long after I started teaching that I got my first private yoga client. It was one of my students who came to my class, and I probably within like 6 months of me starting to teach, she had asked me to teach her private yoga. And again, I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know how much to charge. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I taught her and her husband, and she loved it. And I was like, actually, I really enjoyed connecting with people, one on one or in, the couples. And that's when I was like, well, maybe I could make this work.
That's so great. Kelly, talk a little bit about your journey because I find this a really interesting one as well.
Yeah. So my path was very different than Joanne's in many ways, but we have some common touch points, of course, as well. I actually began my yoga practice in college with a yoga course. And I loved it because I was 19 years old and I was able to, as Joanne will tell you, I'm very twisty. I was able to just twist and bind myself and all sorts of things. And unlike Joanne, I probably first came to it just because I liked the physical aspect. I felt like I was quote unquote good at yoga, which what does that mean, right? And I love the Shavasana, as a very tired as a very tired college student, that Shavasana was just gold to be able to like relax. And looking back on that course, I don't even remember them talking about any of the limbs of yoga. I think it was really just all the physical practice with a little bit of breath work and called that a day. But the nice thing is, because of that, I began when I was working in marketing and beauty marketing. I had the opportunity to take classes at work, which was really amazing for me because I was super, super stressed out, right? Doing 60 hours a week. And it was just such a lovely way for me to really connect to myself. And while I was doing that, I was also marathon training at the same time. So I'm not sure that I really got the message of yoga. I think at that point I was probably so amped up nervous system wise. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so lucky because from the time I was 19, I've been practicing pretty consistently. Unlike Joanne, it took me a very long time to decide I wanted to do a teacher training, but I came to it for very much the same reason because I wanted to deepen my practice. I didn't think I would ever teach necessarily, but I like the idea of really getting to understand it better. And with that being said, I also quit my 9 to 5 during teacher training. So I got the push off the cliff moment from my husband saying, "You love this, do this, see what happens with this." And so that's how I sort of began, and that was 9 years ago. And Joanne was actually one of my teachers in my teacher training as well. So,
Yay.
yay! So that's sort of where I began my yoga teacher journey. And then during that time, my arthritis was diagnosed and started to get much worse. So I had to really teach myself how to practice again, with the lens of knowing my body's changing, my practice looks different. Will people respect me as a teacher if I can't do every single pose, right? And kind of coming to that while I'm in front of a class teaching. And when you were saying aha moment, my aha moment wasn't necessarily the career shift aha moment. It was probably finally the moment where, unlike Joanne, it took me a second to kind of realize that my practice wasn't just about the physical. And it was actually, I was probably about 25, practicing for about 6 years at this point, and was, in a relationship that needed to find its end. And the way that I kind of got that mental clarity, I remember it very clear. It was every morning, probably for 2 months, I just woke up, I put in a Rodney Yee AM yoga VHS
Yes,
tape.
I had that.
Me too.
And I did it pretty much like every morning. And then I finally kind of got to that point of like clarity. And I always think of that as like my aha yoga moment. It had nothing to do with handstand. It just kind of showed me that being on the mat, really being connected with myself, helped me so much, and just kind of figuring out that next big step that I did not want to take, probably.
Just a quick aside about the Rodney AM yoga VHS tape. I'm laughing because, my yoga practice has, you know, very much waxed and waned more than it has waxed, even though I know there's so much benefit to it. And I think a lot of people listening to have had that experience as well. Something's good for you. You feel good when you do it. You remember why you had done it previously. And then, life gets in the way, or we, maybe have a conscious or unconscious fear of getting on the mat and it being hard. Um, but the quick aside, and I think it ties into something you both alluded to, is one of the few moments in my life where I experienced, I mean, it sounds so corny, but like a few moments of like transcendent bliss. Like it's not the same as happiness.
Mm.
Was like spontaneously as I was walking home from work, uh, you know, 25 years ago, and I had been doing that type of very gentle morning yoga, maybe like 10 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Um, every day for, however many months. And in general, my nervous system just felt calmer because I don't, big disclosure, I don't come from a long line of calm people. It's really hard to find one in my family tree. Um, and I found it like restorative and healing for my body, but so healing for my mind and my emotions.
Mhm.
And it unlocks something. Um, So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit, whoever wants to go first, please do, but about the emotional and mental health benefits of yoga a little bit more. Like why does that happen? Or what is that all about? Or what might people notice if they're new to yoga?
But I also teach, and Kelly does too, restorative yoga. And I've actually led or have an online teacher training that I lead with restorative yoga. And I think restorative yoga in general, but restorative yoga for me is so healing. It takes you out of the fight, flight, freeze, into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of bringing the agitation down, slowing your heart rate down. And these poses, particularly in restorative, but in yoga in general, are designed to facilitate that. And it doesn't take very long. Like you can be lying on a bolster in a supported back bend for a few minutes, and you start to feel, for me it starts with usually a physical sensation of the body settling, like all these layers of holding and gripping in the body start to let go. You start to find some ease physically, and then sometimes the agitation in the mind kicks in a little bit. You're like, why am I lying here, and like I shouldn't be, what am I doing? And there's a whole narrative going on in your head. And then when that starts to dissipate, then you start to find this place of real ease. And it can be hard. It can be very hard. Restorative yoga is not, it's not an easy practice. It looks like it is because you're lying on pillows and blankets, but it can be more challenging, I think, than some of the other practices. But once you kind of get through all the weeds of the mind, there's this place of real stillness. Um, and it's very healing. It's very healing physically. I think it's healing emotionally, mentally, to give yourself space and some kind of clarity, and not being so caught up in daily life. Um, And you can also find that in other practices, not just restorative. Like if you go, both Kelly and I teach Vinyasa yoga, and you go through Vinyasa yoga is more of a flow style yoga, linking the breath to the movement to breath. And it's sort of sequenced in such a way that by the end you've moved, you've kind of got rid of some of the physical energy, and you're at a place where you can then begin to relax. So you can also find those glimpses of that sense of peace and freedom and calm in those spots too. Um, but I think for me, it's this connection, like connecting to your body via the breath, which brings me into that place of feeling more calm and having more sort of mental clarity. And I think, it's switching yourself off, even if it's just for 10 minutes in restorative pose from the outside world. You're not looking at your phone, you're not looking on Instagram, you're not looking on social media, you're not like paying your bills. It's this time that you hopefully cultivate just for you. And I think even that in itself, that practice has huge benefits. I could go on and on and on, but I'll let Kelly talk too.
Well said, though.
Thank you.
Totally. I mean, all the restorative, I'm 100% with you on all of that. And with my restorative, I actually usually do a flow and restore for the reason of for people to get into their bodies and move a little bit before they lay down, because it is not easy. Restorative is a really hard practice, especially if you just come from work and you're lay down and relax. And that can be really, really hard for many people to do. So I like to think of it as a little prelude to it sometimes. But for me, with yoga for arthritis, which is one of my focuses besides being a vinyasa yoga teacher, is there's so much study on chronic pain and how meditation and how through yoga and through meditation it really helps manage chronic pain and helps sort of dial down the volume on the chronic pain. And I think there's so much benefit for people living. I'm not saying you're going to cure your pain. I'm not going to say you're going to cure anything. Those words I hear a lot thrown around, but it helps you manage, especially if you have, rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis, and you can begin to notice those patterns and that narrative that is going on in the mind. And that's what I think really, really helps many people with that. But there are so many studies out there showing how much chronic pain can be helped through meditation and through these types of practices. So it's not just, hearsay. It's actually been documented scientifically, because you begin rewiring the brain, right? And it's a great way to do it without. You can do it on your own, right? You can have a little guidance. You can of course have a yoga teacher help, but all of this is, you don't need any fancy equipment, right? And you can do this on your own. You don't even need a mat, right? You can use a chair. And I think that's what's really, really nice, is that you have this power if you can begin to kind of cultivate it for yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. There is good data showing that yoga is helpful for managing chronic pain, and it you know it pairs so well with other meditative and healing techniques. Truly, I love that you brought that up, because I think, having worked with so many chronic pain patients previously, I have to tell you, like, and you probably hear this too when people come to your classes, that if your body does not feel good, and I know that pain is what brought Joanne to yoga as well, you know, the most important thing is to move so that your pain doesn't actually get worse. Because if you do nothing, a lot of people don't realize your pain will worsen, it won't stay the same. But it's the pain that makes people shy away from doing things like yoga that, again, might feel hard or uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
And I would say with that too, just as a caveat, like, there have been many yoga classes I've been to that would not have been the case in my lifetime. And really working with people who understand how to move smartly, especially if you're working with a condition, is really, really important. Or if you take a course online, whatever it is, I think, I'm going to be really honest. There were years where I was afraid to go into a yoga studio, even as a yoga teacher, because I just did not feel welcome because my practice looked very different and I didn't want to be called out in class. So I think it's important to say that there are really skilled yoga teachers out there and people who have the education and the knowledge, but many 200-hour yoga teachers or even 300 hours or 500 hours, if they haven't really worked with different populations or had an instance like Joanne and I, where we really were in chronic pain all the time, they just might not have those tools. And I just like to caution, not saying that, you know, it's not safe. I'm just saying not all yoga, I think, is right
Mm,
for
yeah.
everyone.
Such a good point. 1000% agree. And I think it's so important actually that as yoga teachers, you're saying that. On your website, Kelly, I know that you say yoga for your life, not for your Instagram. I have to tell you how much I love that. That just says it all. I can't even say it any better or even as well. But I think everybody knows what you mean by that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important because if you go on Instagram, a lot of what you see are half naked people performing arm balances. Let's be really honest. And I'm always confused. They're half naked, but they're wearing a hat. Are they cold? Are they hot? I don't know. I'm very confused. Sorry. Uh,
It's totally true.
It's very true.
so I just felt like it was so important to say that because people right away kind of get an idea of what my teaching style is like and how I focus. One of my other private students says, we don't do pose yoga. And that's another great way of saying it too. And Joanne and I, both have said it before, right? You have people who want to perform, right? And we really want it to be a practice. That means your practice is going to look different from somebody else, and giving that space. I know Joanne and I both feel this way. We give space so our students, if we look around the room or look around a virtual yoga room that we have on Zoom, right? We can see our students are empowered to do what works best for them. And that could mean holding a plank, that could be staying in child's pose. Or if you're someone like me who doesn't like child's pose, it could be just laying on your stomach, on your belly, like to be able to give that space. And that's so important for me, to have people feel like they are empowered, because it is their practice. It's not my practice. I'm giving cues and ideas, but they are ultimately the one to say what feels best for them in that moment.
Love that. I'm laughing because we spoke a little bit a few minutes before we started our interview, and what you're touching on, Kelly, and Joanne touched on something too, is that there's kind of, I don't want to say like the dark side of yoga. I'm sure that'll be another podcast, but the competitiveness or the performativeness, and if somebody wants that, that's great. There are plenty of places for them. Um, that's not what you're about. Joanne, I don't know if you want to talk about, how hard it is for people to leave behind the part of them where everything feels competitive. Because that's kind of what
Yeah.
it sounds like you want them to leave at the door.
Yes. And yeah, that's very hard for people. I mean, I teach in Manhattan, which is not known for the most, chilled out people. There's a lot of competitiveness. And one of my clients, I know he won't mind me talking about this. I teach at a corporation, and there's only usually about 5 or 6 people in class each week. And we do, again, it's not, as Kelly was saying, it's not what you would necessarily think of as yoga. It's more stretch based, from people who've been sitting at desks all day. But in the middle of it, he'll want to like whip out like a plank off and like hold plank for 2 minutes and like have a competition, or we'll
As
be
one does.
doing, as one does, or we'll be doing, I don't know, pick a yoga pose, and he'll want me to like grade everybody on it, like a letter grade. He's like, I'm an A, right? I'm an A. Like, she's D. So, you know, it's not ideally what yoga's about, but you just kind of roll with it. But it's kind of funny because it is hard to, it's hard for a lot of people to let go of that competitiveness, even within a yoga class. We're talking about all of this, but of being able to find your own practice within a yoga class. But I think there is still the tendency for all of us to be looking around a room and be like, look at her, she can like hop up into handstand in the middle of the room and like float there, and I can't even like lift my leg up. You know, there is that piece of it that comes into play. And I think um, that's another part of the practice. If you are practicing in a group, is to not compare yourself. You know, as Kelly was saying, we all do have our own yoga journey, but comparison never really, you know, leads to down a good path. It doesn't really get you anywhere, but it can be hard within a group class when you're looking at other people to let go of that, for sure.
No, but I think for a lot of people, any kind of class-based thing can be intimidating.
Can be
And,
intimidating. Yeah,
whether it's the outfits or,
yeah,
it really depends, or what you can do or what you can't do, or just people who tend to
yeah,
be a little more self-conscious or
yeah.
have a harder time shutting their minds off.
Well,
Um,
a lot of people will say to me, I'm sure to Kelly as well, that like, oh, I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible enough. I'm not like whatever it is on the list. Flexibility is usually the big one. I'm not. I can't sit there. I can't like, you know, there's a whole list of things, and you don't have to be any of
I'm
those
too
things.
old.
Too old. I'm too this. I'm too that. You don't have to be anything to start a yoga practice. Like you really can just sit in a chair and start your yoga practice.
I
And the
mean,
irony is when people say that I'm not flexible enough, I'm like, but you don't understand. I was terribly inflexible, which is why I started yoga. And they look at me like I have two heads because they're like, that can't be possible. You must be like lying. I'm like, I'm really not. It's only living proof that you can change your flexibility. So yeah, there is a whole, you know, there's a whole list of reasons that people have of why they can't practice yoga.
yeah, and I would also say Joanne and I both don't come from a dancer background where you have a lot of
No,
ballerinas and dancers and gymnasts who come and they teach yoga or they come to yoga. And I feel like for both Joanne and I, we have really had to work and hone our practice. Everything didn't come easy
no,
physically to us or mentally,
no.
right? But the physical part of it, it didn't come easy. So
No.
I think in that way makes it more authentic and easy for us to teach people because we have been there.
Yeah.
Joanne had tight hamstrings, right? I have my knees don't really bend that much, so I it's it's a good thing in so many ways because we're relatable, but also I just love it, as you said, Joanne, when someone's like, I am bad at yoga. It goes back to the thing of we're not giving grades or gold stars. I
Yeah.
do want to give out gold
Yeah.
stars though.
I would
And
give
none
gold
of
stars
us,
to everyone.
yeah, everybody you showed up to yoga,
Yeah.
you get a gold star. That, I mean, and I always try to remind people, just like you showed up today, you got on your mat, you took time for yourself, no matter how you perceive the outcome of your practice, that's the practice, right?
True.
Um, although, I would like an A next time, Joanne, I take class with you.
They give you an A minus. A minus.
Okay, I'll take it.
oh my goodness. So I know I've asked you a little bit about your journeys and, how your teaching is different from what people might imagine, right? Um, we've talked about some things people get wrong about yoga, like the expectations they put on themselves or where they need to be, or where you might have been like always, born doing a headstand or something. Tell me something simple that someone could do if they want to dip their toe in the yoga pool, metaphorically, like something that would be simple that would still count as yoga, that someone could do like today and notice the feeling, notice how that creates a shift inside of them.
One is the breath thing that I was thinking. Another one's a little more of a physical. But for breath, even just placing one hand onto your heart, one hand over your belly button, and just inhaling into your hands and exhaling, but just feeling the movement of your hands to start with. And then once you've kind of found that rhythm of your breath, taking a slight pause after your exhalation. So the breath becomes inhale, exhale, pause. And it's not, you're not holding your breath, you're not like constricting around the breath, it's just a little bit of a gap between the exhalation and the inhalation. So that's a really lovely, I like that breath a lot. I do that sometimes on the subway. um, It's a lovely breath just to kind of bring you into yourself. If your mind is feeling active, to kind of drop back into your breath and into your body. And you can kind of repeat that to yourself as you're breathing, right? Inhale, exhale, pause.
Notice the difference between right before and after you put one hand over your heart, one hand over your belly. People can be doing that even right now as
You
they
can be doing it
listen to
right
you.
now. It's a nice connection, especially if you have a harder time kind of tapping into your breath. Putting your hands on your body starts to give you a sense of your breath, because you can feel the rhythm of your breath as your hands rise and fall. So if you do have a hard time, like, oh, I can't really sense my breath or connect to my breath, that's a really nice way of finding that connection. You can do it really anywhere. You can do it standing online at the grocery store. You can, if you're stuck in traffic, it's a good one to practice. Um, and then as far as physical poses, like if you were just sitting, as we're sitting here in a chair, you could do a cat and cow. You know, I don't know if everybody knows cat and cow. Cat and cow is usually on your hands and knees, right? You breathe in, pull your chest forward, and slightly more of a back bend. As you exhale, you round your back. But you can do that in a chair. You have your feet on the ground, hip width apart, hands on your knees, and then you'd slide your hands back towards the tops of your thighs, pull your chest forward. That's the breath in. And then as you exhale, you'd slide your hands towards your knees and round your back. That would be the exhalation. So you're kind of flexing and rounding through your spine. And that's one of my favorites, especially, if you sit all day, if you're stuck at your computer a lot, it's good to get the mobility back into your spine. So those would be two of my things that you can quickly incorporate into your day that don't take much effort, don't take much time.
But have a good payoff.
Have a good payoff. Absolutely. Yeah. If I didn't do cat and cow most days, I would be in a bad way. Like my spine would probably fuse. So I do that a lot. I do some variation of that movement every day, whether it's from the hands and knees, whether I'm sitting, sometimes I'm standing, I'll put my hands on the kitchen counter, do that same type of movement. But yeah, I'm always trying to move through my spine.
That's great. Thank you. It's so easy for people to do and just, again, dip their toe in the water. Yoga doesn't have to be difficult to be beneficial.
Absolutely.
Kelly, anything to add?
I have two practices that are sort of more need-based, I would say. So first being, I love the breath, but sometimes when you're really anxious, it can be very hard to find your breath, and it can be distracting for people to be like, I don't know that I can breathe, right? And so one of the practices that I like that you can do anywhere, you can do it with your eyes open, is just begin to, it's a five senses practice in a way, but you can just use one sense, and you can look around the room and say, I have a pink chair in front of me, shocking. Uh, Pink chair, right? Or, candle, and you can start labeling things as a way to begin to help you kind of calm yourself when you're anxious. You could do the same with sounds, right? But not get overly involved in the narrative around it. Can be a lovely way. Or just even noticing, Joanne was talking about, restorative yoga, settling, noticing the texture, of maybe the floor underneath your feet or the seat, and allowing yourself to be present in that way, just noticing where you are in space in a very intentional way can go a long way. And then another one, which is kind of goofy, which I don't know that Joanne has actually ever seen me do this one, but if you have a stiff neck, and you feel like that turn right and left feels really rough, like we've all woken up with a stiff neck. I do not know the science behind this. I got this from Ann Swanson, who is a yoga for arthritis teacher. But you literally take your earlobe and you pull on your earlobe and you yawn. So what I always do is I'll have you look as far as you can over your shoulder, and then kind of see where you are, and on your opposite ear, you begin to kind of yawn and pull. I'm not going to do that because my earbud will fall out, but you kind of pull, and you do that for a few moments, and it's really amazing. You can usually get a little bit more range of motion. So I love that one.
Interesting.
Nice to have in your sort of repertoire. And most of us have woken up with a stiff neck at some point. So you kind of need the visual for that one, but that's in hearing my voice. You kind of pull it and you make yourself yawn, and you do that a few
And
times,
which
and it
way do
looks
you turn
really
your head?
weird.
Say that again. Which way do you turn your head?
So
Do you
like
pull
if
your
you were
ear?
looking over your right shoulder, you
Mm-hmm.
would just kind of see where it is, and then you would pull your opposite earlobe. So you
Okay.
pull
Okay.
your left earlobe. and like open your mouth and pull it. I think it relieves tension in your
Hmm.
jaw,
Hmm.
which works down the neck. So
Hmm.
you can do it on both
I'm going to
sides
try
and
that.
kind of see
That's
what
great.
happens. Yeah.
We'll talk in a moment about a way people can connect with both of you more deeply and this incredible trip that you have coming up. Um, on your either social media or your websites, do you have many exercises that people could follow so that they could get a sense of, oh, and obviously, the video portion will be on YouTube for those who want to actually see our conversation and see the techniques and try along with you. But um, for people who want to get a little bit more of the full-on Kelly and Joanne experience.
I'll go
Kelly
first,
has more than
Joanne.
me. I was going to say Kelly's better at her social media and updating her website than I am. Let's just say that.
Different, not
You
better,
and me both.
different. Um, so for me, I mean, you can look on social and see things, but I have specifically for those living with arthritis, with knee arthritis, because it's near and dear to my heart. I have a return to yoga class in 7-day challenge, which can be signed up for on my site. And with that, it just gives different strategies so that if you're somebody living with arthritis in your knees, it would probably also work if you had arthritis in your hips as well. It gives you ideas for how you can begin to make the practice yours and make it feel as safe and good in your joints as possible. So that's probably my biggest one. But also on my booking site, I have some free fuller length classes as well, like 20-minute classes that you can take as well. That's more sort of my general classes. And my favorite free one is Yoga Anywhere. So you don't even need a mat, and you can do sort of a gentle vinyasa flow with that. But yeah, so I have different options out there.
I love that. And just, I'll put it in the show notes, but for people who are, maybe are driving or something,
Yeah.
tell people where they can find you on social media and your website.
Yes. So wellandkel.com is my website, and then my Instagram is at wellandkel with 2 L's. So yeah, so you can always find me there. You can find me on Facebook. I mean, I'm around.
And mine is just joannesilver.com, and same on Instagram at Joanne Silver.
Great. So for people who want to immerse themselves in yoga, again, whether they're experienced or have no experience, and also maybe want to have an incredible experience that's different from their everyday experience, you two are doing a week in Domenica again
We
in
are
March.
in
Is that
March. Yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
All right. So talk a little bit about that.
It's March 16th to the 23rd, the island of Dominica. So not the Dominican Republic, it's Dominica, which is in the Caribbean. It's near Martinique. This will be my sixth retreat that I'm leading there. It'll be Kelly's third retreat. And Dominica is known as the nature island of the Caribbean for good reason. It's beautiful. It's covered in rainforest. Has a UNESCO World Heritage Site there, which is a boiling lake in the middle of the island, which we have the opportunity to hike to. There are
Wow.
waterfalls, there's canyoneering, there's whale watching, there's beautiful vegetation. It's a gorgeous island. And we're staying at Jungle Bay, which is an eco resort. Long story, but it's newly rebuilt after a hurricane, so it's really beautiful. And we'll be there for a week. We'll be doing yoga twice a day. In the morning, it's more of a flow style yoga. In the evening is restorative. Kelly's also going to be leading some aqua yoga. And
Wow.
included in the retreat, there's a hike to a waterfall through the rainforest, there's kayaking, snorkeling, there's the boiling lake hike I was talking about. And all the food is included. The food is delicious. All the fruits and vegetables are grown on site. You're really like in the middle of this tropical oasis. You can just go out and like pick fruit. It's wonderful. Yeah, Kelly, do you have anything to add?
I mean, you didn't talk about the banana smoothies.
Oh, the banana smoothies. Those are our favorite. Absolute favorite are the banana smoothies. How did I forget?
A
Which
nice bonus.
literally are just bananas and ice. But the bananas are so like fresh off the tree that it just tastes it's amazing.
So good. So good.
Yeah, so good.
Um, I would also to add that our retreat is very much, we say, choose your own adventure.
Hmm.
So you can do as much or as little, and there's no peer pressure to go to every yoga class. There's no peer pressure to go to every excursion. You can really take it at your own. And besides the excursions off site, they also have a lot of other cool things like it sounds like you'd be like, I don't know about that. But they do a tour of the whole Jungle Bay eco resort, and it's just fascinating. And Sam, who started it, and all of the people on the Jungle Bay team are just so passionate, and it's so exciting to really feel like you are going to this beautiful resort, and the resort actually is not just it's environmentally friendly, yes, but it's also doing so much to help so many families on the island. It is really gorgeous. Like, I am not very granola, and so I feel like it's really important. I'm not very granola, and it does not feel like an eco resort at all. It is just it doesn't feel that way. Meaning, I haven't had to chase any spiders out of the room. For Joanne would have gotten a call if some of her other retreats have been a little bit
I mean,
more
that's
adventurous.
true. That's true. I do like to tend to like the adventurous retreats. And then actually, as an aside, at Jungle Bay, there are two beautiful infinity pools. So if you like, don't want to do all the other activities, you can hang out at these gorgeous infinity pools all day and read your book. And there's something for
Yes,
everyone on this retreat. I guess that's what we're trying to
And
say.
yes.
that's where the aqua yoga will take place, is
That's
in the
right.
infinity pools.
That's right. Yep.
Yes, yes. One of them that is, they close it off, so you're not on full display of everybody doing aqua yoga. I think that's really important to
That is
say.
important.
Yes, but it's really, really fun, and I spend a lot of time at the pools. I definitely do. I love the Champagne beach with the sulfur spring, so you're actually like swimming through bubbles when you're snorkeling. So, Joanne or somebody else will help me kayak because I'm not the world's best kayaker. I'm just luggage. But it's really, really fun. And I mean, last time the group, um, I think some of them still stay in
They
contact,
do, yeah.
and yeah, and it's just such a nice group of people. And again, it's really just finding what works best for you. And there are just so many options, which we love. And
And
the Jungle Bay
actually,
team there is just like family. As soon as you go
yeah,
there
they are.
once,
It's
you
true.
feel like
They
family.
actually call you that, Jungle Bay family. And actually, Domenica has been listed on the New York Times 52 places to travel in
Wow.
2024 list. Yeah.
So people better get
You
going
better get
and
going.
book
Exactly.
this trip
10
while you
minutes.
still can.
That's right.
So go for the yoga, the beautiful scenery, the inner peace, the getting healthy, stay for the banana smoothies, and so much more. It's a
You can also
spider-free environment.
add rum to your banana
Let's not
smoothie if
say
you
it's,
choose.
there could be a spider. I just haven't seen one,
I
is all
haven't
I'm
seen
going to
any
say.
spiders there.
No,
I've seen a
actually,
Yeah.
couple of
really
lizards, no spiders.
interesting. Dominica doesn't have any poisonous, snakes, or they don't though. They don't
No,
have any
I'm laughing that
poisonous
you would
snakes.
know that.
I'm laughing that you've obviously looked this up, but that's good
It
for
actually
people
didn't
to
occur to
know
me to look that up, but yes.
if that's a concern.
It's good
It,
to know. Well, there are other places you go and like everything could kill you. It's kind of cool. I'm not saying that, whatever, but it's just I think of these things. Yes, Joanne, I think of these things.
it's going to be a very exciting, also relaxing, and very safe trip.
Yes.
Um, I think it sounds amazing. Absolutely. And where can people find out more and sign up? Because if they want to sign up, they've really got to kind of get going on
Yeah.
that. Because it's going to fill up quickly, and the trip is, not even 3 months away, or 3 months away.
You could sign up via my website, so
JoanneSilver.com.
joannesilver.com, and there's a retreat page. Actually, if you scroll down, it's on the homepage
Okay.
as well, but there's a retreat page and it will be on there, and there's a button you can click to sign up.
Okay. Or at Well and Kel.
Yeah, Well and Kelly. Yeah.
WELLANDKELL.com.
Yes. .com.
And if you want
Same
more
thing.
information about, oh, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
No, you go.
If you want more information about Jungle Bay, where we're staying, they also have our retreat listed on their site, and it's junglebay.com.
Perfect.
Yeah. And mine's at Well and Cal. You'll find the retreat and same link to sign up as well.
This is great. And I so appreciate your taking the time to kind of speak with me and share all of your exciting work with our listeners. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have, or that we didn't cover that we should have?
Oh, I know. We were going to offer a discount for your listeners to the retreat.
Wow.
If they're interested in
Okay.
signing up, it would be a $150 discount from the price of the retreat if anyone signs up.
So people can go to one of your websites, make their deposit, but then leave a note when they
Yeah.
do that, that they heard about this beautiful excursion on Unpacking Possibility with me, Tracy Stein, or just from Tracy, however they want to do it. And they'll get $150 off the total cost, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
This has been another episode of Unpacking Possibility. If you enjoyed the episode, please do remember to like, share, and follow, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And really great news. Again, there's a promo code for you if you want to sign up to attend Joanne and Kelly's week in Domenica. Beautiful Domenica, doing yoga, hiking, swimming, and so much more. You can just enter the code Tracy 150. That's TRACI 150, and you'll receive $150 off the total price of this trip. So check it out. And again, as always, until next time, be well.